Right. So as far as diversity and inclusion is concerned, diversity in the Indian cultural context is very different from what it is in Western. Primarily, it is about gender. So all conversations in diversity happen around gender.
Right.
A secondary large piece of diversity that comes through is around race. So whether you're a Caucasian or whether you are from a color, right? Whereas in India, if you look at it, diversity is least of our challenges. And I'll tell you why. So diversity is in terms of that we have been always brought up as a society that has multiple subdivisions within.
Yes,
so whether it is on the geography, because we are a large geographical entity, we have people from various states, different linguistic bands, different religions, different castes. So the entire conundrum of diversity is too huge.
Correct.
And add to that the finer and the newer subgroups in diversity, which is, let's say, disability of any kind.
Yes.
Or preferences in matter of choices, sexual or otherwise. It's a very new concept of diversity when it comes to India. So what we are trying to say is, if we focus on the aspect of diversity which is Western and continue to focus on gender or race, in which case in India would be the region that one comes from.
Right.
We are opening ourselves to a majority backlash, which is by virtue of whatever the organizations have been in the past. Today, a certain subgroup of people are in majority. You know, and it's not to say that people who have existed in the organizations are not competent. Or the diversity candidates that we bring in from outside, in order to meet diversity numbers goals, are going to be more competent. As long as the stigma of diversity candidates sticks to an individual and there is no clear differentiator in performance, they will carry that stigma with them within the organizations. Right now, when you have a 70, 80, 90% majority population sitting and you have a very small, in fact, not even 10%, but very small percentage of people who are carrying a diversity logo with them, you are creating a toxic work environment. Now, toxic work environment, one is in terms of complete discounting.
Yes.
Two is lack of influence and efficiency or efficacy because the organization refuses to respond as overwhelmingly and eagerly to you, which are we compared to anybody else from their own tribe, and setting you up for failure, right? So that's a toxic environment wherein you are placing people who get tagged or seen as diversity candidates. So even if there is no visible blowback, there is going to be resentment within. Now, how do you overcome these challenges? When you mitigate and when you reduce any kind of stigma that diversity can bring along with it. So therefore, stop speaking diversity. Let's talk inclusion. The challenge is inclusion. While we have people from multiple subgroups, we don't include them in our conversations. We are still divided across caste lines. We're still divided across regions. We're still divided across linguistic lines. I subconsciously create patterns on people. Well, that's a social stereotype which I carry with me.
Right.
So therefore, when I am in a business transaction, professional transaction with these people from a particular region, I will tend to be wary. And this bias is because of my social upbringing, is because of patterns I've had in the past, may not hold true now. So which is not true when I deal with an individual. Or I may have a bias because of my social upbringing in a small town against a caste, creed, religion, profession, so on and so forth. So the challenge is, how do I become more inclusive? How do I start creating more opportunities for people to share and communicate and broaden my own horizons? Now, once I start doing this across multiple diversity subgroups, and I focus only on being inclusive. Let's forget diversity for a while. Let's focus only on being inclusive. What I'm doing is I'm removing the barriers in my own mind of he is from this region, she is a woman, this person is disabled and therefore cannot do this task. I'm removing those notions from my mind. I'm removing those patterns from my mind. And I start seeing individuals as professionals, as people, rather than as from a certain social subgroup. So that's the whole idea, wherein let's junk diversity and let's move towards inclusion. And diversity, you have to take care of it in a different way. Take care of diversity at the entry level. That's where you have significant representation of women entering the workforce. You also have significant proportion of people with other diversity tags available to you. For example, people with certain limited mobility or handicap. There are people who may have different sexual preferences. Make it open at that end. Make the funnel wider at the entry level. Diversity is not about gender. Diversity is about all disadvantaged or underrepresented subgroups in the society. So that's the first part. Now, if you want to do diversity for the largest other subgroup, which is women, first is if you're talking diversity, just don't talk diversity, talk inclusion. Don't talk diversity, talk only inclusion, talk only breaking biases. Let's for a moment pause and say, let's junk diversity for the moment. Let's focus on breaking biases and inclusion.
Okay.
Now, you have a corporate agenda also to fulfill.
Yes.
Right? Now, where is your majority or maximum leakage happening when it comes to you having a diversity as an issue, even after you do the grassroots hiring at a fair play level? The biggest leakage still will happen in the women category because they are the caregivers, they are the homemakers, they are the mothers because of the nature of the biology.
Right.
So, how do you strengthen that pipeline so that that leakage is plugged? Because leakage, once you have fair play entry level, the leakage will not happen when it comes to handicap. The leakage will not happen when it comes to sexual preferences. The leakage will not happen when it comes to religion, caste, creed, as long as the baseline is covered. Leakage will still happen when it comes to women. Therein, important to understand that when we speak diversity for women, we are not doing her a favor. So there is a very interesting quote. One abducted her and the other put her through fire. So Ram or Ravan, the names made no difference. The idea essentially is that either I am a tormentor as Ravan, or I think I'm doing the lady a favor by playing Ram. No, the lady deserves it. She has the rights to, and she has the competence to be there where she is. So I'm no longer a benefactor or a protector or a grant giver as a male. Today, when we look at diversity and inclusion in corporates, we are doing a favor to the particular subgroup. So the model is, women leaders thrive when they are exposed to a unique blend of inspiration and environment or empowerment. There are 4 key aspects. First is self. Do I really understand myself? Do I really want to be a career woman? Right. So there's a lot about personal effectiveness. There's a lot about self-reflection. There's a lot about understanding who I am and what my large objectives are. It's about rationalizing and realizing, because yes, we do exist in social constructs. So we have to take that decision. So be self-aware and confident and know what you want. That's the first step. Second step is understand leadership. Now, leadership, the moment you start looking at leadership, and this is what we spoke about last time also, almost all leadership theories which give out leadership attributes do not require the woman to be alpha male or to be more than a male. When you talk of humility, when you talk of authenticity, when you talk of empathy, emotional intelligence, when you talk of teamwork, when you talk of multitasking, all of those leadership attributes are natural to a woman. Why are we expecting her to compete with men and do better than men? Because when she does that, she gains hard edges because she is naturally not that. She will be always required to compete with men, but she can compete with men on her own strength. Just recognize that the leadership traits required to be successful are natural feminine traits, right? So giving the woman that confidence and then honing her skills on those leadership traits which are natural and akin to her because she's a female. So that's the second part. So self, then move to leadership. Now the thing is, she still has to operate with men.
Yes.
Right? Now men are going to be threatened by her when she comes and starts playing on her own wicket. So therefore, also enable a woman leader to be able to influence her colleagues, which are largely going to be from the majority subgroup, men in this case, to be able to influence them and get them to be her champions, get them to be her allies, so that men see her as a normal human being, playing on her strengths, and don't feel threatened by her. Now, how do you do this? Is by not getting into a combative position, by not getting into an authority position. Those are old models of leadership. In any case, the new model of leadership is all about influence and not authority. Influence, in any case, comes easy to a woman. Therefore, to move beyond leadership attributes now, how to exercise leadership is leverage influence to create leadership within her other gender colleagues. To understand the aspects of how to build relationships. So these 3 aspects, the aspect of self, the aspect of leadership, and the aspect of managing and influencing colleagues to be her ally and champions is something that the organization needs to support her on. Now that said, there is another aspect wherein the leak happens, and that's the biggest aspect. Let's say a woman has been through these three aspects, self, leadership, and colleague. There is a possibility that once she goes the family way,
Yes.
she will have a larger societal or a family environment to deal with. Now, today what happens is, since I have, as a woman, not specifically stated, laid out, clarified, asserted my position that I want to be a career woman, it is still seen as, yeah, it's one of those fads that she wants to be a career woman, but when the family comes in and the baby is born, she will sit
It's
down and
taken
she
for
will have,
granted.
even after the child is born and when she wants to get back, she is made to feel guilty. First by her own mother, then her mother-in-law. Now, the thing here is that now this is something that the organization should not and must not and cannot get in. But during these three workshops, the woman should be encouraged to and should be prepared to hold crucial conversations much in advance with her extended family network. So what
Yeah.
you're saying is, let's say if you have gotten married, it is perfectly healthy to have an open conversation today with your husband than when you are going the family way, right? It is pretty positive to have a conversation with your mom and mom-in-law saying that, listen, I still want to be a career woman and I'm doing fairly well at my career and I'm amongst the top guys and folks and I'm pretty competent. I want to continue doing that. Can I look forward to support? Can we plan proactively when I go the family way? What's the kind of support that will be available to me subsequently? Will my husband partake some of the duties? Will my mom-in-law come in? Or will my mother come in? Or my father-in-law for that matter? Why not? Or I hire a full-time nanny. But
Correct.
the fact is these decisions and discussions have to happen before. Because if they happen post facto, the woman is already in a half guilt mode, saying, I'm going to leave my baby behind, and there are enough and more people who will give her grief for that. So it's a very critical piece, because if you miss this piece out, no amount of investment in the other three aspects of self-leadership and colleague will be able to bring this woman back to work. So that's the whole premise. First
Okay.
is diversity and inclusion effort in corporates today, and the
Okay.
fact that it is failing. Because there's blowback happening, because the women are getting further disadvantaged, because the corner offices are not willing to take women in their own teams, some large organizations have done away with diversity efforts. So that's part one. Okay, let's look at, even if it is gender driven, let's look at first diversity and inclusion, and therefore junk diversity, make it more gender neutral, make it include other diversity groups, and focus on inclusion. Part two of the premise.
Okay.
Part three, you go back again to gender, saying that yes, considering that there is leakage, even if we do the first level hiring, which is fair,
Okay.
the leakage will still happen most in women because of the biological nature. Now, how do I plug that? So to plug
Okay.
that, one, I need to hire right in the beginning. Two, I
Right.
need to have the right learning and confidence building inputs at the right age of 27 to 32 maybe. And then for post 35, I need to have a back to work program. And if we do this, then is the time when truly we will have addressed the diversity and inclusion in the corporate world.